Azor Ahai is the prophesied saviour who will drive back the darkness and save humanity from the forces of evil. Melisandre thought it was Stannis, but is it actually Jon, or Daenerys, or someone else? And what does the prophecy actually say? Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to In Deep Geek, particularly if you are a first-time viewer. Please do consider subscribing if you enjoy the video. We'll look at what the Azor Ahai prophecy actually says, how it ties in with all the other ancient prophecies like the Prince Who Was Promised and the Last Hero, for there are some differences. And then look at what it might actually mean for seasons 7 and 8 of the show, and see who matches up best to the profile. The legend of Azor Ahai is ancient, from over 8,000 years ago. It comes from the time of the Long Night, and the story has been kept alive through the faithful of R'hllor. The story goes that a great hero was chosen by R'hllor to fight the darkness during the bleakest time of the Long Night. He forged a great sword for this purpose, working for 30 days and 30 nights. Finally, he went to temper it in water, which should have been the final stage in its creation, but the sword shattered. Undeterred, he forged an even mightier sword, this time taking 50 days and 50 nights. Wary of tempering it in water, he captured a lion and plunged the sword into its heart, hoping to temper the sword with its blood, but again it shattered. Finally, he set to forging the mightiest weapon yet. He worked for 100 days and 100 nights until it was ready to temper. He knew now that it would take something special to temper this weapon, the weapon that would drive back the darkness. It would require sacrifice. So he called his wife to him and plunged the sword into her heart. Her willing soul merged into the steel, and Lightbringer was born. What happened next is not clear. All we really know is that Azor Ahai faced up against the darkness, that he did not fight alone, and that the great darkness was driven back. There are other legends from this time, of course, and if Azor Ahai is the predominant legend that has survived in Essos, the main one in Westeros, particularly in the north, was that of the last hero. He set off into the north at the darkest time of the Long Night, seeking the children of the forest, hoping that their magic might help defeat the others. He also had a powerful sword, one that had the power to destroy the others, made from a substance known only as dragon steel. Again, the details are vague, but the last hero does reach the children of the forest, gaining their help before forming the Night's Watch and driving back the others. As with all myths, we should probably take the exact details with a rather large pinch of salt. But there's a pretty good chance that both of these stories refer to the same person, who led the fight back against the darkness, armed with a powerful sword and a band of allies, before disappearing into the mists of time. So that's the legend of Azor Ahai, which was kept alive by the priests of R'hllor. But 5,000 years ago, a prophecy was added to the legend. This spoke of a time when Azor Ahai would be reborn to defend the world once more against the Great Other, R'hllor's great enemy. There are a number of signs that we should look for in this Azor Ahai reborn. According to Melisandre, who is our chief source of knowledge for this, Azor Ahai will appear after a long summer, when the red star bleeds and the darkness gathers. Be born again amidst smoke and salt. Wake dragons out of stone, and draw from the fire a burning sword, Lightbringer. It is on the basis of this that Melisandre heads to Dragonstone and declares that Stannis is Azor Ahai reborn. Her thinking seems to be that it is indeed the end of a long summer, and Stannis was Lord of Dragonstone, a volcanic island offering plenty of both smoke and salt. When a red fiery comet appears in the sky, she stages a ceremony on the beach at Dragonstone, in which Stannis draws a flaming sword from a burning statue of the maiden, and Melisandre declares it to be Lightbringer. Now, before we go on, it's worth just stating the obvious, that this shoehorning of Stannis into the prophecy is a huge stretch. There is no hint that he has ever brought forth dragons from stone, even figuratively. His campaign since Melisandre declared him Azor Ahai was a long string of failures, and, most importantly, in the show at least, he's now dead. Melisandre also uses the phrase "the prince who was promised" to refer to Azor Ahai. Although she and several others seem to conflate the two concepts, there are some differences, or perhaps more clues in the prophecies concerning the prince who was promised. These come from a variety of sources, rather than just in the depths of R'hllor worship. The ghost of High Heart, a mysterious and apparently accurate prophetess, states that the prince who was promised is or will be born of the line of Aerys II, the Mad King, and Rhaella, his wife. Rhaegar Targaryen says that the prince who was promised's song is the song of ice and fire, and that the dragon must have 3 heads. He says this in a vision Daenerys has in the House of the Undying. Maester Aemon became convinced that the word used to describe the prince in the prophecy was a gender-neutral word, so the prince may be a woman, not a man. So let's pull all this together. Who could be Azor Ahai? Well, there were no shortage of candidates. Stannis thought he was. Rhaegar thought he was, then changed his mind and thought that his son Aegon was, and so on. But these people are all dead. And today we have just 2 real candidates, Jon and Daenerys, both of whom are born of the line of Aerys II and Rhaella. Jon, more than anyone else, personifies the song of ice and fire. He is the product of the union of Stark and Targaryen, a dragon in wolf's clothing. He carries a sword that, in the show at least, has the power to destroy the others, much like the last heroes. When Melisandre talks of him, she says, "I pray for a glimpse of Azor Ahai, and R'hllor shows me only snow." And in the flashback to his birth, did you notice this lingering shot of Arthur Dayne's sword, Dawn, that Ned rests on the birthing bed? It was forged from a fallen star, meaning, perhaps figuratively, that Jon was born when stars bleed. But of course, Jon has yet to even see a dragon, let alone birth one from stone. Daenerys' rebirth in Khal Drogo's funeral pyre took place under a red comet, amidst smoke from the flames and salt from her tears. This brought the dragons to life from their stone eggs. And the High Priestess of R'hllor now also appears to be convinced that Dany is Azor Ahai. On the downside, she seems to fit the Song of Ice and Fire less well than Jon, and doesn't have a sword with which to face the others, although one could argue that she does have a flaming weapon. So both characters could be thought of to fit the prophecy if you look at the clues in a certain way, or perhaps excluded if you look at them in another way. And all this is ignoring the idea from Rhaegar and Aemon that the dragon must have 3 heads. Does this mean that Azor Ahai is actually 3 people? Well, perhaps, but that is a big enough question for another video altogether. All of this means that we need to take a quick reality check here. 5,000 years is a long time. A very, very long time. Can we honestly expect to be able to trust the details of myths and legends from that long ago? And should we trust legends and prophecies at all in the world of George R.R. Martin? Well, according to the man himself, sort of. He has spoken many times of how he dislikes prophecies in fantasy stories that drive the narrative and come literally true, and instead prefers there to be an element of nuance and uncertainty. So I think the lack of clarity here is deliberate. The show may simplify things, as it often does, but in the books at least, I think we can expect to be left with some uncertainty about whether the prophecy has been fulfilled, and who by, even after the series has ended. That said, George R.R. Martin does have a love of history echoing through his stories. The hero or heroes who lead the fight against the darkness are very likely to mirror the prophecies, and the history of what happened when the others last rose against humanity. Danny and John are likely to be at the vanguard, and we are likely to be able to retrofit the prophecies to fit them when the dust settles. But for now, things are deliberately vague. We are looking through a glass darkly, not through a clear lens. As Tyrion puts it so eloquently in A Dance with Dragons, prophecy is like a half-trained mule. It looks as though it might be useful, but the moment you trust in it, it kicks you in the head. What do you think? Who do you think might be Azor or Ahai? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you want to see more like this one, please click on the subscribe button. And if you want to support the channel in other ways, please check out my Patreon page. Thanks again. That's all for this time. I'll see you again soon.